Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the U Talk Show, where we are almost falling asleep, but not quite yet. So we will deliver to you one last amazing discussion tonight, and that discussion is
I got the title.
based based on the question. Do you want to just read it out?
How can our economy reflect our strengths as Australians?
Oh Jesus, no, that's not the topic at all.
It is,
I mean,
though.
kind
That's
of
the thing.
okay. It's not our topic for in accordance with the notes that I made. So the title that I made, which was basically a hostage situation, was oh wait, timer. I gotta press the timer. There we go. I did it.
Kyle was going to ask about comparative advantage.
Yeah. So basically, should we be embracing
Ingradiating.
ingraded um
This
yes,
entire
falling asleep.
episode's going to be a hostage situation. Let's do this.
Just I don't know.
This,
I'm holding
this
episode,
entire
whatever it
episode
is,
a hostage
and I'm holding a gun.
situation,
That's
and we are
post-production
the
work.
Uvalde Police Department of Texas.
Oh, come on. That's just we did not need to go there. That was
And
terrible.
yet,
We are terrible
interestingly
people.
enough, so are the Uvalde cops.
Okay. I would say that we're probably going to hell if it exists, but well, you'd compare that to them as well. So
No, hell is what those kids went through before they died.
oh wow, this is just getting depressing. Hi, welcome to the talk show where we are all fun loving. Yeah. So today, the actual question, should we be embracing comparative the doctrine, specifically specifically should we be embracing the doctrine, the economic doctrine of comparative advantage and specialization for the Australian economy? I am going to drag this way off the rails and then bring it back because
I'm going to ask the question first.
Hold on. I might not answer it. Depends on if it ties in.
You have to answer it too, because
What?
I'm not an economist, and hopefully a bunch of our audience aren't economists. If we have only economists, we've done something horribly wrong. What in the fuck is the doctrine of comparative advantage?
Basically, it states that nations should essentially go into industries wholesale as far into industries and only industries that they have a comparative advantage. For Australia, that's like mining, because we have a lot of mineral wealth and it's easy to just scoop it up, ship it off to other parts of the world. So exporting minerals, raw materials is something we have a comparative advantage for.
But wouldn't that also mean that we would have a comparative advantage, say, for manufacturing the silicon wafers that semiconductors use, because the sand is right there. So if we process it here as well, and we have the resources to do that, which are the same as anywhere else in the world, we can eliminate the necessity of shipping to a specialist facility elsewhere and perform that task in-house. And we can ship something that is worth far more with far less cargo tonnage and far less cargo volume.
Yes. Like I've had debates with friends, like Ken Enderby and me debated that. Ken Enderby is incredibly intelligent, very, very, great guy, great to discuss this sort of thing with. But we have very opposite views on this. He thinks that we like comparative advantage is basically what we need to go with because our economy wouldn't be able to do anything else for various reasons that he's given me. I think he's wrong. And to define, like, I think what you just said is entirely right. And we could go further than that and manufacture renewable energy systems here. We have all the materials here. We could manufacture electric vehicles or perhaps hydrogen
we don't
run
have
vehicles.
Tantalum in Australia.
Tantalum?
Tantalum and niobium are chemical elements that are important in the production of some electrical components, which are used in electric vehicle drivetrains.
Okay, my mind's I think I've heard a little bit about that, but it's not coming to my mind. I can't remember at this time. But that being said, I did also want to very quickly touch upon, were we talking about hydrogen vehicles or something at once upon a time? Like we could.
Yep, I remember that.
yeah, there was an idea of like if we had like wind farms, and solar farms that essentially produced, it's like a hydrogen fuel,
Yeah.
and then that could be exported, and it wouldn't take a whole lot of modification to take cars today and adapt them to that. It would take some modification, but not a hell of a lot. Correct? I think that was
No,
the
that bit
conclusion
would
that we
take
came
a
to.
lot of modification. The thing that wouldn't take too much modification is transporting the hydrogen fuel.
Yeah, yeah. Right. Okay, that, yeah, no, I get what you're saying now. That's what I remember the conversation now. Because
Yeah.
that's, I mean, it's very similar to liquefied natural gas,
Yes,
or
that's
fracked
correct.
gas. And we could make a transition to large scale production of that hydrogen fuel. Um, I need to learn more about that actually. That very much reminds me. I should make a note of that after this. But uh, to get back to the original question, should we be embracing the doctrine of comparative advantage and specialization for the Australian economy? I want to talk about
No,
bears.
we shouldn't.
Hold up, hold up, hold up.
You want to talk about bears?
I don't want to. I
Okay,
don't.
this I
I
gotta
don't.
hear.
I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to state the answer. I want to demonstrate the answer, because demonstration of an answer proves beyond a shadow of a doubt anything. If you can demonstrate something, like it's that old TikTok trend, tell me this without telling me this.
Yep. Tell me
Like, tell
about
me you're a
bears.
massive nerd without telling me you're a massive nerd. The God Emperor is X thousand years old and, is the most powerful psyker in human history. Well, tell me that comparative advantage is not what Australia should be doing without telling me that. I'm going to talk about bears. There are two types of thought when it comes to which bears are the best bears. Some prefer the hyper specialized bears like panda bears, and
Panda bears aren't bears.
they're not. Are you
Nope.
sure?
I am absolutely sure. Give me a second.
I'm I I could swear they are. If they're not, anyway. Point is,
No, pandas are in their own family. Iluridae. They are not bears.
are they closely related to bears?
Nope, they're closer to raccoons.
Holy shit! Wow, you've just blown my mind. Okay, all right. Just yeah. Just anyway. So pretending for a moment that they're bear enough for this example, there's panda bears and then there's polar bears.
Yep.
One's hyper specialized into eating bamboo, and get as much nutrients out of that as he can, which is virtually none, which is why they have to eat a ton of bamboo.
Yeah, it's
And the
also
other
why they're
one,
really bad at fucking.
yes, they can get pregnant once every 2 years, and doesn't happen a lot. And the other, like polar bears, they're hyper specialized as hyper carnivorous. They pretty
Mm-hmm.
much live off a diet of seal meat and
Yep.
whatever other meat they can find. They don't really eat vegetables or anything. It's just meat.
Yeah.
So those are hyper specialized. But what's happening today with climate change and habitat destruction?
Brown
Habitat
bears are
loss.
coming out on top, baby.
Black bears are actually the best, but we'll get to that in a second. Um, which bear is best? Black bear. Um, and
That's
I'm not going to
racist.
make that joke. So, so with habitat loss, pandas are losing their habitat. Their numbers have shrunk. They can't, like, they're so hyper specialized that without their specialized the habitat that they've specialized into, they just can't make it work. So we actively have to protect them and ensure that they have enough habitat to survive. On the other end of things, with the hypercarnivorous polar bears, yeah, they're big and strong and they're fucking monsters. They will, like, if a polar bear, if you turn around and a polar bear is there, it's been tracking you for kilometers and it is going to murder you. Like, you have no chance unless you can put a permanent barrier that it can't get through between you and the bear.
Or a
Like, it is a
bullet in it.
it's a very good carnivore. However, the sea ice of the Arctic has been melting, and they aren't doing as well as they were before. They're really taking a hit from that, to the point where they're now interbreeding with grizzly bears. That, like, they are interbreeding with grizzly bears because they don't have the old habitat that they used to. And so their entire way of life has shifted. And it's very likely that we'll have a new hybrid species. And if we fix climate change, polar bears will make a recovery at some point. But if we don't fix climate change, polar bears might not recover. And they might just merge into the grizzly population. Oh, crap, we're running out of time there. But yeah, basically, with that hyperspecialization, they're both not doing too well because of a change in circumstance.
Yeah.
And guess what happens with an economy?
If the circumstances change and you depended on being the only game in town,
you're done.
the thing I thought as a demonstration was the pandemic. We have outsourced so much of our manufacturing to Southeast Asia. And all of a sudden, when there were difficulties in transporting things around,
prices shot up.
Businesses worldwide suffered.
And prices shot up for, I think, electronics, was it?
Yep. We're still dealing with the effects of the what is referred to as the chip shortage.
Yeah, and that's a huge deal. I mean, but the thing is though, if then there's generalists like the grizzly bear and black bear. Black bear's doing just fine. Like it's lost habitat, but it's still doing just fine. Like it's lost
it can
territory. Yeah, it's a generalist. It can eat almost anything that's edible. It's good. It's sweet. Even with the human like hunting and habitat destruction, it's still going strong. And so that's what a generalist can do, but a specialist cannot. They can change and adapt to circumstances. And it's the same with economies. If an economy is well diversified and not specialized in only a few things, then it can adapt. It is not vulnerable to changes. The Australian economy, unfortunately, is not very well diversified. We are like 70% services alone, and then the rest is pretty much a mix of agricultural output, which we export, mining, like raw materials only export, not even refined materials for the most part. For the most part, it's just raw materials. And then it's property. But we have a property bubble, so that's about to screw over the entire economy, really. I mean, it already is, but if that bubble collapses, which I think it will, then that's a large part of the economy that's just rippled. And we only have 3 other parts of the economy to ripple through, if you really think about it. So, that's what happens. Like we are a specialized economy, and we have seen through COVID and are starting to see, and we'll see more through this housing crisis and what I predict to be the collapse of the property market and the shockwave that'll send throughout the economy. We will see just how much being a specialist can really in an instant throw everything into chaos and screw us over. One example actually would also be that, like, was it a quarter, I think, of the it was a large portion of the employees of the mining industry at the start of the global financial crisis just were fired, dropped off because the international demand for raw resources dipped, and so their jobs were gone in an instant.
Yep.
Yeah, and then there's also automation, which was screwing them over, but that's not quite what we're talking about here. And so what do we need to do? Well, we need to diversify the economy. We need to make it more complicated. We need to have more industries. No industry should be more than 30% of the economy. And we should have, at least, in my opinion, at least 7 or 8 major industries that make up a large portion of the economy. Which means you want them
to be around about 15% each, 12.5%.
I'm just
sort of thinking of like playing Transport Tycoon, right? Do you ever play Transport Tycoon?
I didn't, but I know a little bit about it.
Like you've got to get the wheat to the granaries to produce food. You've got to get the food to the cities. You've got to be able to transport mail. You've got to transport people. The key to surviving a game of Transport Tycoon is to get your fingers into as many pies as possible, so that if one industry dries up, you can absorb the hit and you can keep functioning.
And that's exactly what I'm on about.
Well. Yeah,
that's exactly what I'm on about. In economic terms, that's what you have to do with an economy, and that's why generalist economies and generalist. Yeah, exactly. And that's why generalist economies and generalist animals do well when changes happen, is because they'll take a hit due to the change, but they still have the rest of it and they'll adapt.
Unless
A
they're the
div-
Soviet Union, in which case their 5-year plan has baked them into a certain type of fragility that is impossible to recover from.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot to say there, but
Look,
that's for a different video.
Nassim Nicholas Taleb is an economist, and he writes a lot of stuff about probability. But his latest work is the concept of anti-fragility, like building economic systems that are fundamentally resilient to change, or to a certain amount thrive in an environment of change. And I think reading some of his work might be really interesting to you and really informative to the
Send it
broader
to me.
audience. Sure
Yeah,
thing.
send it to me, and maybe we'll post it in the description below. Yeah, because I mean, that's like couldn't have said it better myself, really, for a lot of what you've just said. We need to diversify the economy. We need to create what I call new economic assets. That is essentially an industry, or a new, or basically an expansion to the economy that should be there permanently under most circumstances. Kind of like the
Yeah.
Murray-Darling economic development strategy. I've talked about it before. Huge. It's a huge expansion to the economy. It's the single largest creation of wealth in Australian history, and it puts it in the hands of those who need it most. That would be an amazing expansion and new economic asset. Those cities in the Murray Darling. But that being said,
Yeah.
we've run over time, so
It'd be an
we'll talk
investment
about
that
that
will
another
pay
time.
dividends, and that's all that
Yeah,
is. We need to
for a long
invest.
time too. Anyway,
Okay. We'll catch you all later.
see you later.
Take
Have a good
care,
one.
everyone.